right, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining me here on behance.net/live. My name is Jason Levine, Principal Worldwide Evangelist for Adobe Creative Cloud, and thank you for joining me today on a Monday morning learning live stream, where today we're focusing on Premiere Pro and specifically working with motion graphics templates. Now this week on Adobe Live, we've got an entire week filled with motion designers who are going to showcase some incredible things, their incredible talents, and some incredible stuff over the next 3 days, beginning tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And today we're really going to focus on just kind of the basics because you'll have the ability, of course, there'll be a contest to follow along, to make your own content, and really how to get started creating motion graphics templates and how to work with motion graphics templates inside of Premiere and in After Effects, and also take advantage of the free motion graphics templates that we offer to you, not only in the application itself, but also on Adobe Stock. Many of you may remember announced last year that motion graphics templates in Adobe Stock are available now. So who are we going to have on the stream tomorrow, beginning at 9 a.m. Pacific time, you ask? Well, let's go ahead and pull up that schedule. And I believe beginning at 9 a.m. we're going to have Valentina V and Shameless Maya. At 11 a.m. I'll be here with Pablo Lozano and Shonduras. And then at 1 p.m. my good friend Evan Abrams and Jake in Motion are going to showcase to you some incredible things in the After Effects and Premiere world, again, all based around motion graphics templates and really giving you the ins and outs and some amazing info about motion design. Now, as far as today's concerned, we're going to spend about 15 minutes in 3 different sections, kind of covering different elements of creating motion graphics templates in Premiere and After Effects. So for the first 15 or so, I'm going to talk about Mogerts in Premiere. By the way, Mogert is how we refer to those. Using the Essential Graphics panel, working with typekit fonts, which is an essential part and something that is very crucial. It's not necessary, but a very crucial and important part in creating these templates, because one of the ideas behind them is you're making something that can be reused, that can be leveraged again later on, or perhaps with someone else that you're collaborating with. So the ability to collaborate and have collaborative elements in these motion graphics templates available to you in your CC libraries. This is all something that you can do, and using typekit fonts is a big part of that, and we'll talk about that. Then we'll go into creating Mogerts in After Effects and some of the differences there. Ultimately, you are designing motion graphics in After Effects to be used in Premiere. You're not building a Mogert to be used in After Effects. Now, one of the amazing things about Mogerts in AE is that even existing animated motion graphics, lower thirds, title sequences, credit rolls, things that you've already built in After Effects can effectively be turned into shareable, usable motion graphics templates for Premiere Pro. But there's a couple little things you need to know. We'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk about making responsive templates. So one of the big announcements, again, in Max last year was, much like with the web where you have responsive design, we have responsive templates, which will automatically reflow, in the case of responsive design, position to any aspect ratio or frame size. And then we also have responsive design time, allowing you to build animations inside of your templates and always preserve an intro and outro duration of those animations, regardless of the duration of the content that you're placing those templates over top of. So we're just going to bounce over to the chat real quick to give out some shouts here. What's up, Mitch? And yes, Evan Abrams was on, I think it was November. And he's actually been on a couple times. What's up, Sam? What's up, Ash? Hello, Tim. Always nice to see you. Jason Rose, what's going on? It's all about motion graphics templates. So, all right, so why don't we go ahead and get started? And we'll begin in Premiere, and some familiar content that I've shown many times, just happen to have it with me today, and talk about the basis of building animated elements inside of Premiere. Now, you've always, of course, been able to do this, but with the Essential Graphics panel, by the way, this was a new panel introduced a little over a year ago in Premiere Pro. If you don't see it, you can find it under the window menu, Essential Graphics. You also can find it under Workspaces, Graphics. So we've added a couple of new workspaces over the last couple of updates in Premiere. You can see some of my custom ones there. Your screen may look a little bit different than mine if you're trying to kind of follow along here. But when you open up the Essential Graphics panel, the first thing you'll see, it'll look a little bit different here, is that we actually have a bunch of folders and some presets in there for you. Yes, in fact, if you want to get started just by looking at some of the native default ones that we give you, you can actually see right here that we have a whole series of free templates that ship inside the app that you can begin working with right away. So everything from captions, subtitles, credits, overlays, lower thirds, social media ones, and then we've got some that were built in After Effects as well, and these will have some more advanced elements in them. But we're going to build these from scratch. And the cool thing about this is your workflow doesn't really change in terms of the animation nature of these templates. The only thing that's different is that now you get to type directly on screen, right on canvas, without kind of leaving the editing environment. Right? Now, anyone who built titles and things before in Premiere probably used the legacy titler. Now, we haven't taken that away. If you're new to Premiere and you didn't know about it, I'll show you where it is now. If you were using Premiere before and you thought, they took my titler away, no, it's still there. And you can find it under File, New, Legacy Title. And this will pull up the older title tool where you actually had to build a title graphic file. And then it opened up this non-dockable sort of modal panel here. And you would type all your graphics and things in here. And there were some, you can see, legacy title styles. And I know Paco next to me here, he loved this one, Hobo Medium. I believe you said that was your favorite. No. Is that anyone's favorite? I'm not sure. It's in there nonetheless. However, this was a very functional, but admittedly less than beautiful interface experience, particularly for people coming to Premiere for the first time. So we really wanted to kind of reinvent the way we type and make it function more like the way we work in Photoshop and After Effects and Illustrator. So now when we want to begin making titles in Premiere, it's as simple as choosing the type tool, which was something that only got added a year ago. So if we click on the type tool here, you'll see that we have standard type as well as vertical type. So I'll choose the type tool and I can click right on screen and I'll type something like space, all right, today, all right? Select everything and come over to our Essential Graphics panel. Now, oops, I just erased my text, sorry, space today. So if we look over here, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in for you. We'll come back to responsive. First of all, at the top, what you're seeing here is what we refer to as our layer stack. You're effectively building up a series of layers that you can reorganize and reposition to build your motion templates. So right away we have a text layer. You can see you've got the same, that eyeball to toggle on and off state, just like in Photoshop. And then below that we've got our align and transform controls. So again, if we want to do a vertical center or a horizontal center in this case, this is also where we can do all of our basic adjustments for rotation, position, opacity, and scale. Anything done right here in Align and Transform. Now we're going to come back to Master Styles in a bit, but then we get down to text. And this is where this gets interesting because, as I mentioned, of course, we work natively with all of our Typekit fonts. And why it behooves you to use Typekit is that if you use a Typekit font in your template and you have it living inside of a shared library, or you simply send the .mogrt file to someone to use, if they're a CC member, they import that template and it may say, hey, you need, what font? Fat Frank, or you need Futura PT, or you need Iskra, or you need Instant, but you don't have it on your machine. Well, just like with Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign or After Effects or Premiere, Typekit will say, hey, we'll go ahead and get that font for you, fetch it, and install it immediately. You don't even have to close Premiere, and things just work. So I always recommend, if you're building templates which will be shareable and usable with others, use Typekit because it ensures that your template will always look the same. It'll have a consistency regardless of who's using it, so long as they're using it right inside of Premiere. So I go ahead here, let's go ahead and choose. You can, of course, search and filter by your favorite Typekit fonts. And I actually really like Paralucent. So maybe we'll choose that one. Do a little bit of centering here. Maybe we'll even scale this up. Okay, oh, and I can do the center justified as well, something like that. Got your various styles here, so extra light, light, and this is where I stress because I'm not a type designer, so I never know like what's cool today. Is it thin? Is it ultra thin? Is it light? Is it heavy? I don't know. I stress over these things. Maybe we'll make this a little smaller. That looks kind of big. All right. Space today, okay? And then you've got all of your various paragraph and sort of character style things here, as well as your appearance. So we can change the fill, we can add a stroke, we can add a drop shadow if we so desire. All of those various elements can be added right here. Okay, so that's just the basis of creating a text layer, all right? Now we want to do some more. Well, let's say we wanted to add some kind of graphic, or maybe a little divider, a bar, some kind of graphical element underneath that. Well, you'll notice down here, if we click on this button, it says New Layer. Now I can click on this and I can choose rectangle or ellipse, and this will actually allow us to draw a rectangle or ellipse directly onto the canvas right here, adding another layer. Or you can also go down to the pen tool here, which will allow you the same functionality either with the ellipse tool, the rectangle tool, or just to draw any freeform shape. Well, I just want kind of a little divider bar, so I'm going to choose rectangle, and let's change the color and make it kind of a little bit blue like that. All right. And let's go ahead and do something like this. All right, very quickly finding the limitations of my design capabilities here. I'll do my horizontal center again. Something else that's kind of nice and new in the latest update of Premiere is that you can multi-select layers inside the layers panel, and then you can also, or rather, you can also hold down Shift to constrain movements. So this was something you couldn't do in the previous version. Now you can do all of that. So it just makes things really easy, kind of tightening things up and making your graphics come together. All right, so we have space today, our little divider bar there, and then maybe I'll add another line of text. And again, we can do it right from here by choosing text or vertical text, or just choose the type tool. Come down over here again. We're in Paralucent already, and we'll call this an exploration, and we'll move this. An exploration of our planet. And I probably mistyped that because I couldn't see it, but that's all right. Let's go ahead and shrink that down. Oh, it actually turned out okay. Do our horizontal center. Oh, and it just kind of worked right there. And maybe we'll add a little shadow on that. And that looks terrible, so let's go ahead and drop that down. Let's blur it a little bit. All right. Add a little distance there as well. Okay. And now we have our title. Easy, simple, good to go. Okay. So now that we have that, now that we've got our title here, what do we want to do with this? Well, first of all, I'm going to drag this down into a different video track. Had some of these turned off. Let's go ahead and turn these back on. Drag this down here. So now we want to animate this, okay? And we want to animate this on, all right? Very simply. I'm just checking the chat here real quickly. Okay, how come some of the tracks are blue and some aren't? Yes, so that's a good question, Ash. So this is just about how you label things. So again, a new function of the latest Premiere is that you've got 16 different color labels that you can use. You can see the 16 here. If we go into Preferences under Labels, what you will see is that standard video, audio and video comes in that iris color, which is that blue that you're referring to right here. These are the defaults, all of which, by the way, can be edited and modified. All of these colors and label names can also be edited and modified. So yeah, I happen to not really love that blue. I tend to change those. I was just using my old default project here. If you simply click on the color, now you get the standard color picker that you have in all Adobe apps. So you can change those label colors to whatever you want them to be. And then subsequently, you can change the defaults for all of these what is it, 7 different properties. So movie, audio and video, video, audio, still, sequence, dynamic links, and bins, all right? Okay, so let's go ahead and animate this on. So how do we do that? Well, the really nice thing, as I told you at the beginning, is the way that you animate these motion graphics templates is exactly how you did it before in Premiere, effectively by using your Effects Controls panel. So in the Effects Controls panel, along the left side here where I have it docked, what you'll see is that at the top here, you can see that I've got my text layer, Space Today, my shape layer, okay, my little rectangular bar, and then I've got my bottom layer of text and exploration of our planet, all right? So if I wanted to say, fly this on, or maybe just adjust opacity over time, let's just expand this so I can have a little bit more space, a little bit more screen real estate to do my animations here. I'm gonna come over to opacity. So let's say by the time our spaceman's head is right about there, I want the opacity on Space Today to be 100%. So I'm going to come down to opacity and I'm going to click the stopwatch icon to set a keyframe. So at that keyframe, at that moment in time, we're at 100% opacity. But I want that opacity to gradually shift over time. So I'll come back to the beginning of the clip, and now I'm going to just drag this over to 0. So now when I play this, okay, it sort of flies on and adjusts in opacity over time. We can actually extend that, make it a little bit more dramatic. So you can see it really kind of fades on a bit more slowly. And then we'll stagger the fade on of the other text and perhaps the bar as well. So let's come over to here. I'm going to just shift these a little bit. And I'll come over to the bar next. I'll shrink this up, come down to our shape layer. And we know that this keyframe right here is where we're at 100% opacity. So maybe I'll stagger that. Come over here. I'll set an opacity keyframe 100% on our bar right about there. And maybe we'll have the blue bar start to come in about there. Okay? And we'll do a similar thing with that bottom line of text. Shrink this up. Twirl this down. All right. Set an opacity keyframe. Wind it back. Set another opacity keyframe down to 0. And maybe we also want this one to move in position. So I'm going to set a position keyframe here a little bit later in time for that an exploration of our planet. Okay. Wind this back. And as it's adjusting its opacity, maybe we also have it appear off screen. So from the bottom. So I'm going to drag this down like that. Okay. And if you right click or control click on your keyframes, you'll see that you have options for temporal interpolation. So we can do a linear move, we can do a Bezier, I happen to like Bezier. Additionally, we can also do an ease in or out. So if we wanted to kind of slowly ramp up and then ramp down into its stopping position, we can do an ease out on this keyframe, and we can do an ease in on this keyframe, wind it back, go ahead and hit play. All right. And barring the performance of my laptop here, this kind of gives you an idea of what that looks like, all right? Not a brilliant motion graphics template, but a motion graphics template nonetheless, okay? With animation, with text, and now with multiple layers. And I want to point out here that in this new layer button, you'll notice that you also have from file. So one of the other things that you can do here is you can import, let's say you have a logo bug saved as a ping with transparency. Let's say that you want to import an image file, a JPEG or a TIFF, or a Photoshop file, or a layered PSD file, or video. All of those things can be implemented, can be inserted right here into the layers panel and become part of your motion graphics template, including video. Yes, so we're going to showcase that to you in just about 30 seconds when we bounce over to After Effects. So now we've made this very basic template here, all right? So now I want to basically save this so I can reuse this and repurpose this again for next week's title sequence, right? So this is, the video today is Space Today, an exploration of our planet. Next week I'll use the same one, but it'll be Space Tomorrow, an exploration of other planets. I want to use the same template with the same animation. So if I right click or control click here, you'll see that I now have the option to export this as a motion graphics template, all right? So let's go ahead and choose that. And we'll give it a name. We'll call it Space Today. Now, here's where you want to put your listening ears on, because this is the most essential thing with using Essential Graphics in Premiere in terms of how you use and leverage these templates. So at the top, you see we have two options, Essential Graphics and Local Drive. If you save the template to the Essential Graphics location, which you can see there is kind of the default, that's going to save it locally to your installation of Premiere. And while there's nothing wrong with doing that, the downside is it's only available on that local installation. So if I go over to my work machine or go back home and use that system and I fire up Premiere, even though I'm synced to my Creative Cloud account, it's not on that machine because I saved it locally inside the Essential Graphics panel to that system. So I generally never use this option. If anything, oh sorry, move to the side there, I might use Local Drive. Now this allows me to simply create the motion graphics template as a .mogrt file, and then I can very easily share this with others. So I don't even have to use libraries if I don't want. Drop it in a Dropbox, throw it in CC storage, put it in OneDrive, wherever you want. It just makes a hard copy digital file that you can move around. The other thing is if you put it in Essential Graphics, a lot of times people are like, where is it? Well, it's there. If you want the file, right, you're archiving all of your project stuff. I need the templates that we made. Where are they? Well, if you save them to Local Drive, you'll always have access to them. And then subsequently, you have an import button to import those templates in Essential Graphics, okay? Now, the other options that I would highly recommend using, of course, are CC libraries and shared CC libraries. So at the top here, I have a couple of my standard libraries. I usually put everything in Jason's library. That's my go-to for everything. But at the bottom, I have a whole series of libraries here that I share with others. So my buddy Terry White, who you've seen many times here on Behance, if I'm creating this and I want Terry to be able to use this too, I can save it to our shared library. And right now, wherever he is, wherever he's logged in, if he's online, it'll start syncing, and now he can use this template too. So this is using CC libraries for me. This is really the way to get the most out of these templates because they'll be with you wherever you are. Whenever you log in, they're always there. So I'll click OK, just like that. And now if I go over to my libraries panel, let's go ahead and pull this up. And I'll dock it over here. You can already see, already synchronized, there's Space Today. And you can see it was created in Premiere, it's 5 seconds in duration, and it's 10 kilobytes, all right? Super small, efficient, easy, and here's many of the others that I've built. You can see I have a theme, text, blue bar, text. That's, Paco, you wanna hire me to do all the design for Adobe Live? All your graphics and titles? Sorry, oh, he's being nice. I thought it was just gonna be silence. Thank you, Paco. All right. You get the idea. Okay, so that's the basis of creating a very simple, no frills motion graphics template in Premiere. Let's bounce over to After Effects and talk about how that works, okay? So we're gonna come over here, go over to After Effects. All right, so once again, we're going to use the Essential Graphics panel. Now, as I told you at the top of the hour, one of the great things about working in After Effects, hello, Avirup, thank you very much for that. One of the great things about working in After Effects is that, you know, obviously, it has a history, a legacy of being sort of the de facto standard for motion graphics and visual effects. Now, if you've ever created any kind of lower third animations, title sequences, anything that you're overlaying over top of video, effectively, those, with some limitation, can be transformed into an editable, shareable template that you can use in Premiere. Now, why that's so cool, and I'm seeing Omar, yes, oh my God, super dope, couldn't agree more, Glenn McDaniel, totally. What makes that cool is, look, I use After Effects, but if you're not an After Effects user, and if you're new to After Effects, it can be very overwhelming. We know this. It really isn't, but it can appear that way. So what if I'm just an editor and I just need lower thirds and I just need to edit text and colors? I don't want to mess with animation. I don't want to mess with lights. I don't want to mess with 3D. I don't want to mess with anything. I just want to change, instead of, you know, Jason Levine live from San Francisco, needs to be Valentina V live from Los Angeles. That's all I want to do. I don't want to have to go to After Effects to do that necessarily. So the motion graphics template allows me to stay in Premiere. Someone, a motion designer, could have built that in After Effects for me, and then they allow me a certain level of editable fields, whereas the editor, I just change the text, change the color, and we're good to go. I never have to touch AE. I don't need back and forth communication. I don't have to go to After Effects and go, oh, so where is that text layer? I don't know, we've got like 6 or 7 pre-comps here, and then in each of those pre-comps, there's pre-comps. I mean, if you're not an After Effects user, even finding where certain things live inside, you know, comps, any advanced After Effects comp usually has, you know, nested elements in it. So if you're not familiar with how it all works, it could be daunting, and it could take you a while just to find what it is that you're looking for. So what we have here, this is a graphical animation of basically another title sequence. You can see where I got the line text concept, except this one has some really, really awesome stuff going on. You can see it's RAM previewing right now. First of all, it has an animated low poly floor that you see going on there. It has some glitch effect video happening, so you'll see as it continues to cache here, you can see the text is kind of doing that zzz, zzz thing, which is super hip and like very, very now. And then it has some 3D lighting and just some other really cool elements inside this template. So you're kind of seeing it now in real time, zzz, 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 you know, and this is where you have to really start using your sound design mind, right? You know, time it just right. Sound effects available at loopology.com. Okay, so, actually not anymore. Anyway, So I want to turn this into a template. I love this, but this has video, it's got low poly, it's got glitch, it's got 3D, it's got lighting. How am I going to give this to an editor? Here's how. So, just as with Premiere, we're going to leverage the Essential Graphics panel to build the motion graphics template. Before I even do that, I'm just going to quickly save this project. We'll call this JL Today. All right. Up in the Essential Graphics panel, and once again, if you don't see it, you can find it under the Window menu. You can also find it under Workspace, Essential Graphics, and After Effects. All right. In the Essential Graphics panel, the first thing we need to do is we need to give whatever we're going to turn into a template a name. So we'll call this Jace Glitch. Why is it not typing in there? That's weird. See that, Paco? Oh, there we go. Okay, my keyboard stopped working for a minute there. That was really strange. Weird. Okay. Then we need to choose what comp are we working on. Now, again, this is where After Effects, if you're not familiar with this, it can get a little scary. There's a lot of comps in this project. To make sure I'm using the right one, down below I'm actually using 06_01_lower_third_ template. Simple naming convention. I want to make sure that we're using that one. This is where you can find all of the various comps and things. And as I told you, we've got all of these comps and nested comps, pre-comps. You can see how this can get a little daunting if you're not familiar with AE. All right. So we're working in the right template. Now, how do we begin sort of making these things work and editable? Well, we're going to click this button here, which is called Solo Supported Properties. And what this will do is this will give you access to the various properties of the comp that you've built that can be edited by the user in Premiere. So let me rephrase that. To date, today, presently, March 26th, 2018, there are some functions in After Effects. They can be part of a motion graphics template. They just can't be edited by the person using it in Premiere. All right, makes sense. That doesn't mean, like, what if I've got Cinema 4D elements? Because Cinema 4D is integrated into After Effects and that work. Yes, you can totally have Cinema 4D, 3D objects, crazy stuff. What about 3D in general? What about 3D lighting? And yep, all of that goes. What about expressions? Yes, totally, all of that. But there are some functions simply that you can't make editable to someone else, okay? So that's the difference. You can still have it in the template. It just may or may not be editable yet. There's something in my eye. If that resembles a wink, that's because that means something might be changing soon. Something's really in my eye, though. All right, so keep that in mind. So when you choose Solo Supported Properties, now this lets you drag whatever properties are supported for editability directly into Essential Graphics. So here at the bottom, if we take a look, you can see we've got our effects like the title, left, right, adjust, the up, down, the drift speed, lighting direction. These are all super cool. Let's go all the way to the bottom here where we actually have the text itself, all right? So I'm going to choose that, choose the source text, and drag it up here, all right? And I will title this First Line Text, okay? That's what the editor will see. And now they can edit it. Right now it says First Assistant Title. They can type in whatever they want. All right, let's go to the second one here. So this is the name text. Let's grab our source text, drag it in there. Second line text, okay? And that's all the text stuff we want. So now I can do something cool here, which is add a comment, all right? I'm gonna add a comment. And the comment is, these next parameters deal with motion and light. All right? So again, as they see it in Premiere, there'll be this little comment divider, and now this is telling the editor, okay, the first two are just text, obvious. These next things are all going to be about motion and lighting, okay? So let's come back up here, and maybe we'll do that, oh, we don't want to set a keyframe there. Let's do that title left-right adjust. Okay, do title left, right. And by the way, you'll see that you can actively change this position with the slider right here. You also have this edit range function. So this is really where, again, as the motion designer, you get to determine exactly how much and what is editable to the person working in Premiere. So maybe you don't want them to be able to slide it completely off screen, or for whatever reason. You get the idea. You can set ranges here. And I see Jan Eric has a question. What is the Essential Graphics panel? Well, the Essential Graphics panel in both Premiere and After Effects was devised as a reimagined way to build animated motion graphics, text templates, titles, title sequences right inside the applications, and build what's considered now a MOGRT file, .mogrt, that can be shared and reused and re-leveraged over time in multiple productions, right? Giving you basically an editable template that can be used anywhere, always with the freedom of working with Typekit and having fonts that can sync directly to your desktop. Okay, so title left, right, let's go ahead and take that. Let's grab our title up, down as well. I will give it a title. Title up, down. Okay. And then, let's see, yeah, maybe we'll grab our lighting direction. We have like drift speed. I don't know if we need all that, but I'm just trying to show you here. So this is lighting direction. That's pretty cool. Got some 3D lighting on there. Oh, and then this we probably want, background tint color. Because again, maybe this week we're kind of using this blue theme. Maybe next week it'll be sort of any color. Think of one. Red. Good choice. You get the idea. So we want the editor to be able to change the background. And I will title this accordingly. Background tint color. Okay? You get the idea. We can keep adding things. All of these elements that you see here, these can all be dragged in. Okay? So you even got like wiggle, distort, all these various parameters. These things can be part of that template if we want them to be. All right? So now what we're going to do, I'm done with this for now. Oh, and then we need to set, last thing, we need to set a thumbnail. So I usually try and find a frame that is, representative of whatever the template should be. Now, because this has the glitch, I actually really like that. Now, it's small, it's a tiny thumbnail, but you'll see here you have this function to set poster time. I actually thought that said set poster frame. Set poster time? What? And when I do that, that now becomes the frame that we see. Has that always said set poster time? What does that mean? It's a poster frame. Whatever. All right, so now we're done with that. Let's go ahead and create the template. Now this is going to feel exactly like it did in Premiere. So we're going to export the motion graphics template. The project needs to be saved. That's why I saved it before. Go ahead and save that. Okay. It does its little thing, does this kind of reconfig. Remember, we're packaging up a lot of different elements here. Okay, and here's that dialog again. So where do we want it to go? Essential graphics? Well, if I want to only use it on this computer in this installation of Premiere, fine. I don't want to do that. Local drive? Cool. If I want to make a .mogrt that I can share with people, who may or may not use CC libraries, so they just want it in a Dropbox, or maybe I'm archiving all of my templates. I recommend the local drive thing for archiving. If you just want a hard copy of the graphics you're making, that's the way to do it, all right? Or again, I typically want things in my libraries so I just have access to them wherever I am, wherever I might be editing. So I'm gonna put it again into Jason's library. Remember, it's called JSON Glitch. Click OK. It verifies the Typekit fonts, and we're good to go. So now, if I were to go back over to Premiere, okay? Once again, CC Libraries, it has already synchronized JSON Glitch. There it is. And you can see JSON Glitch created in Adobe After Effects, 69 megs. Now remember, this one over here, Space Today, what was that, 10K, right? Why is this one so much bigger? Well, this one has 3D elements. It has actual video. So there's that actual like MP4 video in one of those pre-comps. I believe the low poly was an exported video animation. So there's actual video in this template. Now, I'm pointing this out and talking about file size because what's essential about this is that you can create a motion graphics template. I keep forgetting if it's either 1 gig or 2 gigs in size. I think it's 1. Thank you very much, Narendra. I think it's 1 gig. Let me just say this. Even if it's 2 gigs, do you want to make a template stored in a cloud library that's 2 gigabytes in size? No. I mean, don't do that, you know? Because it's just too big, right? Not that you can't, not that you shouldn't, not that it's whatever, right? But as a best practice, I wouldn't want to put a gigabyte text animation in my library, because then the person on the other end is just going like, okay, how long is this going to take to download or whatever? And if they're on a super fast line, yeah, whatever, a couple minutes, but you never know. So just be mindful of that. You know, After Effects comps can get very, very big. You can add all kinds of amazing things in them, but remember, once they're kind of exported, just keep that in mind. So this one is 69 megs. You saw it synchronized in a second here. I have a few that are even in upwards of, say, 200 megabytes because they have a lot of video in them. I can't say I've built one larger than that just because I just haven't. But so just something to keep in mind. It can be up to a gig. Do you want to make a template that's a gig in size? That's up to you, all right? So now, with this in our libraries, let's go ahead and just turn off that other graphic that we made. I can simply click and drag this down into my timeline. Now this would completely overtake the video underneath if we wanted it to. Let's go ahead and drag this in. Okay. And of course we can adjust things like opacity or whatever. But what you can right away see, now this is, I want to point out, this is not like a render. Notice the bar is red. So a lot of people ask about this. How is this working? Well, I can't remember which version of Premiere now. It may have been the October version, or it may have been last April. But we now have After Effects, effectively, we're not only using the same cached frames, but we have the engine, the playback engine from After Effects in Premiere that's going to allow us to preview these real-time templates. So you can see, as I'm scrubbing through this, it's getting more and more real-time. It's virtually real-time right now, all right? It looks great. Those last couple frames. As you drag through it, it will continue to cache those frames, much like if you drag through your comp in After Effects, it caches those frames and becomes green. Or again, if you use Global Performance Cache, close the project, you'll see it's a blue line, meaning frames are on disk. You go to hit preview, and it goes right into playback. Similar concept happening here, okay? The point is, your playback of these, based on how much animation and whatever else you have in them, may not be immediately real-time, but as you scrub through them, it will cache those frames. And the performance, I mean, this is a, I was just talking about this with Paco, this is a 4-year-old MacBook Pro. This is not, you can see, it's the old school silver. I still have an HDMI, I have all my ports on this one. It's wicked. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in here, okay? So, now we want to edit this, right? Well, all I have to do is select my template, and let's go into Edit under Essential Graphics. And as promised, first line text, second line text, comment, motion and light, and then there's our other parameters. So let's go ahead and change our title. So this can be, let's make this First Assistant Director. I change the text, notice it changes right away, right on screen, okay? Same thing here. When I do things like that, I use my middle initial, okay? Jason A. Levine. The other thing about this, of course, is that it retains the animation. Now, similarly, you're going to have to drag it again because you've made that change, so it's going to have to recache some of those frames. But much like After Effects' more modern engine here, you can see it goes back into, again, caching them much faster in real time, much more quickly than it did before. Now, you've got the title left-right adjust. So again, we don't have to go through all of these, but you can see I can modify these here. Again, the After Effects motion artist made those parameters available and editable to me. Up, down, same thing. Lighting direction. This one's particularly cool because, again, we've got this kind of cool 3D light here. And you can really see how this changes the look of that template, all right? And then, you know, maybe we want just a slightly, I don't know, less cyan-y kind of blue. Or maybe we want to go with more of like sunny earth tone, something like that. Because ultimately we're going to take this template and we're going to adjust the opacity so that we see the graphic underneath. Okay, something like that. All right. So again, as we scrub through this, it'll continue to cache those frames, and we'll get into more and more real-time playback, okay? But all the animation, the glitching, the video, all of that remains intact right here inside of Premiere, okay? Super cool, super easy. All right, bouncing over to the chat. Okay, Ray, is there any setting for live preview? Because once I import motion graphics from AE, it really slows down. Yeah, so as I mentioned, and you've got a powerful PC, it's just a matter of scrubbing those. Now, if you happen to have the template, if you built it in After Effects and it happens to be open, or you already have some of those frames cached on disk, you have the original along with this one, and it's open, theoretically it should use those same frames, but you will have to just scrub through it until it sort of plays back more smoothly, just like you'd have to do in AE, you know? Depending upon what's in there, some things, if you just do a standard text animation in After Effects, you're pretty much guaranteed once you hit preview, even on an older system like this, it's going to be in real time within a few seconds. The more elements you add, the more animation, the more plugins. That's something else which is worth pointing out. Yes, you can use plugins in motion graphics templates, third-party plugins. The caveat, of course, is that if you use something, let's say with Trapcode plugins, Red Giant plugins, Digital Anarchy plugins, the person on the other end using that has to have those plugins, right? So this is in the case of like, yes, you can use a non-typekit font and you can give me that motion graphics template. And if I have that non-typekit font already installed in my system, it's just going to work because it's going to look for Jason's font and there it is. If I don't have it, it's going to be displayed incorrectly. Similarly, if I don't have that third-party effect, it's not going to be displayed correctly. So this is just something, again, as a best practice to keep in mind. I typically recommend using the native effects, but you can use third-party ones as well, so long as the editor has access to those. Otherwise, things won't look the same. Okay? All right, checking some more here. Yep, thank you, James. Yep. Very good. Okay. Got our own James Strawn here. James, I'll let you handle the chat while I go into the last section, all right? All right. Jimmy, gasp. Oh, yes, After Effects is awesome. Couldn't agree more. Okay. So, all right, so this was one built in AE. And by the way, just to point out, let's go back to our browser here. If you just want a little taste of some of the additional ones that we give you, you'll see here we've got sort of news, sports, video gaming package. I don't know if I've looked at that one recently. You can see you've got some lower thirds. You've got things like graphical transitions. Oh, that could be cool. Let's see what that is. I don't think I've ever even looked at that one. Let's drag this in. Let's turn on the layer here. All right, give it a second. Oh, cool. So again, this probably, from the looks of it, it's got some, this is probably using the Cinema 4D render engine. Oh, super neat, right? So it's just a graphical overlay. This one, styling, very simple editability. So whomever made this, just colors, main color, secondary color, and then you've got horizontal flip, that's cool, and vertical flip. Change the direction, all right? So this is a stock template. And by the way, as you can see right now, look, it wasn't even playing a second ago. Now I've scrubbed it, I've cached those frames. We're in real time. And we're in real time, it's worth pointing out, oh, sorry, I've got this portion selector here. We're in real time with multiple templates going, both of which were created in After Effects. So, to your question, you know, this machine, honestly, this is old. You know, it is running on an SSD drive. It is 1080 content, but you've got Cinema 4D, 3D elements. You've got video, all this stuff, and this is really playing and scrubbing beautifully in real time at half res, I'll also point out too. I am not at full res, okay? So it really just depends on the spec of your machine, all right? Thank you, Roland. AE is not scary. I agree. It really isn't. You know, it's not unlike going into Photoshop in the past. Now we make it a lot easier to kind of get started, but in the past, you may remember, you open up Photoshop and you just kind of had that blank screen. Or, as I remember web developer friends of mine used to talk about, you go into Dreamweaver, new, and it's just a a white screen with nothing. Yeah, anything looking at a blank screen is nothing. But now in After Effects, when you open it, first of all, you have getting started, sort of onboarding tutorials. Even if you click away from that, though, you then have, do you want to create a new composition or create a new composition from footage? And you might be curious, and you might go, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I do. Because you might not even know that's what we refer to them as, comps. So you go comp with footage. You go, oh, cool. Yeah, I've got a video. I want to put some animation on it. Choose the video, and it builds the comp for you. And it automatically takes the frame size and the aspect ratio and the frame rate from your video and builds the comp according to those attributes. It's really, it's just a matter of getting used to, but it really isn't scary. And I highly recommend diving in. And of course, we have a million tutorials via YouTube and CC Learn right inside the app. Lots of different ways to learn AE. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about here in our last 10 minutes or so is based around responsive templates. And again, the concept here being that we want to be able to create something and then affect its duration or position responsively, meaning that in the case of duration, if I create an animation, and maybe we'll start with this one first here. If I create an animation and I want to preserve some element of that animation, regardless of frame size or aspect ratio, I always want it to work that way. How can I do that? Or in the case of something like, let's say a credit roll or something like that, maybe I want the ability to start and stop and then scroll off screen, but I need it to go 10 minutes longer in this credit, well, 10, it's a long credit series, 30 seconds longer, or maybe 30 seconds shorter. So I just want to take the clip and extend it, but I need it to kind of flow accordingly. This all works responsively. So let's start with some basic responsive design time here. And I think I've actually, just for essence of time, I think I've got one already pre-created. Give me a second here to pull this up on my project panel. Okay. I think we'll go with this one. Okay. So let's see what we got here. Okay. Oh, it's not on. Always helps to turn it on. Okay. So we got two things going on here. All right, so you know what? I'll save this one. We'll do a new one. So here's what I want to do. I want to create text that flies on over a specific duration and then flies off over a specific duration. Or it animates on in some way over a specific duration and then animates off over a specific duration. Elements of what's underneath may change, but I always want those durations to be the same. And you can think about this in the series and things that you watch, you know, stays on screen for 5 seconds, comes off screen over 1 second, stays on screen for 10 seconds, comes off screen over 3 seconds. All right? I always want those animation properties to be preserved. So we can now do that very easily. So let's once again take our type tool here. Or in fact, you know what, here, I don't even have to recreate the whole thing. Let's use our Space Today example, all right? This one. We'll go into Essential Graphics. Okay. So, what you're going to see here, and in fact, I'm going to expand, get rid of this in and out. I'm going to expand our video, just holding down Alt, and just dragging in an alternate copy of this, so I've got a little bit more to work with here. All right. So I want Space Today to fly on. I want all of this to happen, and I always want it to be that length. Okay. Now, what is that length? Well, notice here, when I select this motion graphics template, in the Essential Graphics panel, we have something here called Responsive Design Time. And what this is going to allow us to do is set fixed durations that will always be preserved regardless of how long or short we extend the template. Now, anything that exists in between the intro and outro, so any animation that happens between those intro and outro durations, will be squeezed or stretched accordingly. So if I always want that intro animation to exist over, say, 4 seconds, let's say like maybe 4 seconds and 28 frames. Let's see what that looks like here. I think that covers everything we've got in here. I can do that. That's a bit long. Okay, so let's shrink that up. Maybe 3 seconds? Yeah, all right. Let's do like 225 or 215. I'm trying to get that last keyframe in there. I should have just left it 3. Okay. So our intro duration is 2 seconds and 28 frames. All right. Now, we also may have an outro duration. All right. So maybe I want all of that, everything, to just, opacity down to 0. Over a 1 second period. So I'll come over here and let's just make a little modification here. So I'm gonna do a quick animation on this. Let's set an opacity keyframe, just 99, and then come over here, and then we'll make it 0, like that. Let's back over to here, twirl this up, do the same thing on our shape. So opacity 99. And these don't have to be exact. Same thing, I'll set this to 0. Okay, and then come back over to here. I'm just trying to show you where all these are so it's not confusing. It's a little confusing. All right, back down to opacity, set this to 99. Come over here and go down to 0. All right. And now, I'm going to set the outro duration to, let's make this 1 second, 10 frames, okay? So now, any keyframes that exist in this area will always be preserved. And any keyframes that exist in this gray area will always be preserved. And anything that exists in the middle here will be squeezed or stretched accordingly. So, if you take a look at the clip, our motion graphics template in our timeline below, what you see here is you can see these little white sort of boxes over top of the graphic, all right? If I click away, maybe it's easier to see. So you can see here, this is representing the outro duration and the intro duration. Now, as I said, maybe this week, we had a longer introduction. So there's our preserved animation. Happens as expected, right? That bottom one, by the way, that'll be squeezed or stretched accordingly. But then everything flies off. And by the way, we can see that if we twirl down here. So these keyframes down here, notice they're not inside that window. That means those will squeeze and stretch. Only the keyframes inside the light gray area will be preserved, okay? So if I go ahead and take this now and shrink it down, notice the intro's the same, the outro's the same, and now those keyframes in the middle, they're going to squeeze. So if we play this back, let me take it out of full so that just looks better. All right. Comes up a little bit faster, flies off the same duration. All right. So regardless of if it's this length, and it just takes a little bit longer for that bottom line to fly on, but everything flies off the same, or we shrink it down as far as we can go, those intro and outro durations are always preserved, okay? Responsive design time. So this is phenomenal because, again, this will respond to any length that you're working with. Not only have you built an editable template where I can alter text and animation properties and whatever else that I've done, but now I don't have to worry that, I only built this graphic to work over 5 seconds. Now it'll work regardless of how long it is based on whatever I set those intro and outro durations to. So this is super useful. Now, we're running out of time here, so I want to talk quickly about a credit roll. Now, this was something that you could do very simply in the previous legacy titler. But again, it was a little clunky, and it wasn't so easy to really modify, particularly if you needed to adjust duration. Well, a lot of your credit rolls and title things are often created in Photoshop, right? Or often they're taken from Word, pasted into a Photoshop doc, and they're this long. There's an enormous amount of layers and things. And we want to bring that into here and then make that scrollable. So you can actually do that really simply. So if we come over here and we choose From File, I happen to have a Photoshop file with some credits that I created. All right. Now, this is the familiar import Photoshop file document. Got a lot of different options here. We don't have the time to talk about all of them. In this case, I'm just going to merge everything together because I have this solid background layer turned off, which is going to allow me, again, to just overlay my text real simply, real easily. Okay? And we can extend this out as well, like that. And maybe we'll place this over here where I don't have text on the video. All right, something like that. Okay. So when I choose this graphic, notice that we've kind of got this static text here. It's not doing anything. Well, if I click this roll switch, now what you see is that you've got this little handle along the right vertical edge, which will allow me to scroll through all of our text. By the way, you can just type this right on screen. And with the roll function enabled, it'll allow you, just as you get to the bottom of the screen, to readjust, type, readjust, type, or just do it in Photoshop. All right? Super, super easy. Now, the other amazing thing about this is, if you open up this actual PSD file in Photoshop and make a change, it automatically updates inside of your active timeline in Premiere Pro. What? Yes. So you can have the original PSD file, you make a change, it's already in the Essential Graphics panel, it's already being used as a graphic, it will still update. Yes, you don't have to re-import it. It automatically works, all right? So credit rolls, simple. And then you see you have pre-roll, post-roll, ease in, ease out, start off screen, start on screen, real simple. It just works nicely. By the way, and we're watching this at 1/8 res, which is why it doesn't look quite as beautiful over the stream, but that's just for the performance of my system, okay? Real easy to work with, real easy to use, and again, you can do most of this design in Photoshop. And then the last element here is building motion graphics templates that are responsive to position. So again, I can go into my libraries here. I could choose one of these that I built down below. Let's see if I can grab one of these real quickly in our last minute here. I just want to point out where the parameters of these are. All right, let's grab this one. Here I have a graphic that has some responsive positioning here, which I always want to appear at the bottom corner. All right, and you can see that by choosing our Essential Graphics clip, going into responsive design position, and now you can see that you can actually pin the layer to a specific position of the screen, to the video, or to another layer, and regardless of frame size or aspect ratio, it will always appear there. That's all the time we have today, so thank you so much for watching this learning stream here. Be sure to check out the motion design stream on Adobe Live tomorrow beginning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. We will see you there. I'll be there. Valentina will be there. So many more guests. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.